So I want to set up this ML environment. Let's do it. What is this lab about? The city's mayor wants to create an AI ML school. Nice, nice. They want to attract companies that will provide good paying jobs. I think that's a great idea. The learn objectives is to identify the features and benefits of Amazon SageMaker. Awesome. Identify the appropriate use case for SageMaker. Great. Demonstrate how to configure ML environment by using SageMaker Studio, and then demonstrate how to run Jupyter notebook commands. I love that. So the services that we'll deal with within this particular SimuLearn lab are here. Looks like Lambda S3 and Amazon SageMaker. It's free. It's the free SimuLearn lab. That's great. Free resources is always good, right? I don't have to spend any money, but I can just jump right on in and start taking this one. So we'll do. Let's choose to start learning now. All right. So this looks really nice. Look at this, folks. It's very interactive, right? It looks like it's going to be very interactive, right? So first of all, let's read the assignment so we know how to step through this thing, right? The assignment says we're going to set up some ML environment. Here's a description that says we're going to create an ML development environment by using Amazon SageMaker Studio. Use a sample notebook to train and deploy the ML model by using SageMaker hosting services. Simple enough. It looks like we have two different paths here. So we go through this scripted dialogue, we get to learn, we get to practice, and we get to do it ourselves. Let's jump right into it. So I'll hit start right now. Okay, so Maria Garcia. Hello, Maria Garcia. Maria Garcia has some information for us. Now, the description is over here to the left. Let's not forget that the city's mayor wants to create an AI and ML school to attract companies that will provide good paying jobs. Excellent, excellent. So the mayor here is Maria Garcia. Hi, thanks for stopping by. I need to get your opinion on the best way to tackle a challenge given to me by the city's mayor. And our response is simple. Sure, what's the problem, right? So the mayor wants to make the city a premier artificial intelligence and machine learning technology hub, attracting companies that will provide great jobs for our citizens. So the response that we have here is that's a great idea. Business problems across many fields are being solved using AI and ML. So we'll give that as a response. Yes, I agree. As the principal of a new AI ML Academy, my task is to provide a learning environment for our new students so that they can quickly gain the needed skills. I, myself, need some guidance. So as a response, we'll say deploying AI ML application involves several steps. Fortunately, Amazon SageMaker helps data scientists and developers prepare, build, train, and deploy high quality machine learning, right? Quickly. And so we'll provide those machine learning models very quickly. Maria says, tell me more. I heard AI and ML involves complicated coding and can be difficult to grasp. Can my students start with one tool? And that's why we're here, folks. And you could probably already guess that one tool is most likely SageMaker, right? So the response is Amazon SageMaker Studio is the first fully integrated development environment for machine learning that provides a single web-based visual interface to perform all the steps needed for ML development. Awesome response there. We have another response. SageMaker also supports many common machine learning frameworks and application programming interfaces that remove some of the complicated coding. Many simple projects are available to help teach AI and ML basics. Guess what? Let's do it. It's time. Let's start. So with SimuLearn, we get to learn, practice, and do it ourselves. We'll just hit the continue button so we can jump right into this thing. All right, we got Dr. Newton here. Dr. Newton is an assistant. Meet your assistant. Our AI assistant is here to provide instant support in any case that we need to get a little bit of help along this journey. It looks like Dr. Newton will be facilitating that portion of this lab. So whether you're learning, practicing, or tackling challenges independently, our AI assistant offers detailed explanations, helpful resources, and guidance on AWS services and concepts. You have a question, you can just ask. I'll just hit continue. And what we have here, first of all, is the architectural diagram, and it should give us a step-by-step process on what we need to do. It looks like there's a solution request on the top left corner. Create an ML development environment by using Amazon SageMaker Studio. Use a sample notebook to train and deploy the ML model by using SageMaker hosting services. So step one for us in this solution, developers use Amazon SageMaker and SageMaker Studio to quickly build, train, and deploy machine learning models. And so we'll have an opportunity to view a video if you'd like to, just an overview of what's happening with machine learning. If I wanted to learn more about it, I'll let you, as you go through this thing, if you need the help and assistance, to watch that video to get informed about the basics around machine learning. So this is going to be an awesome tool for us to really get our foundation, our grounds here. But just looking at this architecture, we're going to go ahead and step through all of these steps. So step one here is just allowing you to be introduced into machine learning models and explaining what they are. Step two here, a SageMaker domain consists of an associated Amazon EFS, so Amazon Elastic File System. It's the file system volume. It's a list of authorized users and a variety of security application policy and VPC configurations. So step two here is just understanding the SageMaker domain and all that lives within that domain. Step three, a SageMaker domain comes with SageMaker Studio, a Jupyter notebook, and an Amazon EFS home directory, a shell terminal, right? So these are the additional things that you can utilize. Jupyter notebooks provide an interface, or excuse me, Jupyter notebooks provide an interactive computational environment to build and run ML operations. Jupyter documents contain the code for running operations such as trading jobs. So I like the fact that it's stepping us through this entire lab, letting us know the intricate parts so that when we jump into what we need to do in the console, we'll have some good understanding, or at least a foundation of that understanding. So step five talks about SageMaker Studio, providing a single web-based visual interface where web developers can perform all ML development steps. Now, notice that in step five, here's another video where we can watch machine learning algorithms, or some understanding around machine learning algorithms. This is something that I'll let you step into yourself if you need that foundation before going into step six. Step six talks about running a job through SageMaker Studio. The trained model is uploaded into S3. So diving deeper into the architecture and how we're utilizing the trained models that we have. And now we're going to facilitate some job and store that data within S3. So step seven, to get an endpoint that can be used to test predictions from a model, developers deploy the model to SageMaker hosting services, some endpoints that are fully managed and support auto-scaling, right? These managed endpoints help developers query data without managing their own set of EC2 instances. Step nine, an AWS Lambda function with the JSON payload queries the interface endpoint. The endpoint returns the prediction results. And so step 10, this is the last step as far as the explanation, and then we can jump into the second portion of this lab. So step one was to learn about the architectural diagram, and then step two is to go into actual practice yourself. So for step 10, for increasing performance, developers can create additional inference endpoints that use more powerful instance types so that we can make some inferences on the data that we have within our model, right? So let's jump into the practice of this thing. So I'll come up here at the top of the screen. I'll choose number two. I've learned about the architectural diagram. I've learned about the intricate parts. Now here's an opportunity for me to put some practice in. So let's go for it. So perfect. The concept. In this practice lab, you will deploy Amazon SageMaker domain. We'll launch Amazon SageMaker Studio for machine learning environment. We'll clone a GitHub repository of sample ML projects. We'll upload and walk through a sample ML project. We'll configure and test an AWS Lambda function to call a SageMaker endpoint. Really getting ourselves ready to go forward into deploying machine learning models with SageMaker Studio, right? Practice lab goals, what we want to do is deploy SageMaker domain. We also want to launch a SageMaker Studio machine learning environment. Again, we'll clone GitHub repository of sample ML projects that we can use. We'll upload and walk through one of those sample ML projects, and then we'll configure and test an AWS Lambda function so that we can call a SageMaker endpoint. So let's get that done. We got our architectural diagram here. We'll hit continue. So the first thing that I want to do here is to take a look at the screen and understand that I'm going to be opening up some AWS account, right? And whenever I'm ready, I'll have an opportunity to come here and click this button to open up that AWS account. Here's the lab files, the far left. If I click that, there's two files I need to download. One is called Sentiment. It looks like a Python script here. And then here we are, downloading another file that's going to be needed for this particular lab. All right, we're done with step number 2. All right, so what we want to do now is we want to find Amazon SageMaker. The concept here is to use Amazon SageMaker. Data scientists and developers are going to be able to, again, quickly build out machine learning models that are production ready. Go into the search bar here, and I'm just going to type SageMaker AI. Now looking at Amazon SageMaker AI. Right. We want to get started. And so here's a get started button right here on the far left side. And it takes us to a place where we get an opportunity to set up a SageMaker domain. That's what I want to do. So I'll choose that. I'll choose to set up the SageMaker domain. And what I want to do is I want to set this up for a single user. So this is just going to be a quick setup. All right. So we get this little error message here, but let's just go ahead and disregard that. It looks like preparing SageMaker domain has let us know that in a few minutes we'll have our SageMaker domain built out. And so all we need to do here is wait for about 10 minutes for this SageMaker domain to be built out, and then we'll have access. We have this user profile section, and our domain is going to utilize a specific user to have access. And so all we want to do here is click this launch button, and we want to jump into the studio with the permissions from this user that was created for us. So let's do it. We'll skip the tour for now. What we want to do here is we want to go into the Jupyter lab. We're going to be utilizing the Jupyter notebook. I'll go ahead and click that. And then I want to create a Jupyter lab space. So we'll do it. Let's give this a name. We'll just call this lab notebook. All right. And so that's all we need. It's going to be a private application. So we'll just choose to create the space. It's done. We can choose this button called Run Space. And in a moment, after we have it created for us, we'll be able to open up the Jupyter lab space. All right, folks, I think we're ready to go. It is done. So now we're just going to click Open Jupyter Lab. Let's let it load up, give it some time, and then we're going to choose the file on the top left side here. We'll choose that. And we want to open up a new terminal. So we'll go to New, and then we'll go to Terminal here. And now we have a new terminal that has been launched. Now, to easily identify who we are, we can run this command that says simply, who am I? It looks like we're the SageMaker user, right? And so that's perfect. And now we have an opportunity to display our current directory. And it looks like we are in our home directory in the SageMaker user account. So the next thing that we do is we are going to download some sample projects, and we need to grab that from GitHub. So we'll clone a repository, and we need to run a command like git clone, and then we need to utilize the clone URL that's been provided to us here in the lab. And so I'll do just that, git clone, and boom, we hit enter. It starts to clone those MO projects into our environment. So awesome. Let's make sure that we can receive all of the objects. And I can already see it start to populate here on the left side. So that's a good sign. We're good to go. We do have, right, after downloading those files from the GitHub repository, a new folder here called Amazon SageMaker examples, right? And that's what we wanted. So perfect. So now let's open it up. If we wanted to exit out of this environment, it'd be super easy. We'll just type the word exit. And if we want to get back, then we'll just go ahead and click that to get back to our home directory. So for this next step, in the learning portion, we downloaded a few files. We need to take these files and upload them into this environment. And so there's an upload button. Python 3 is going to be perfect for us. So we'll select Python 3 here. All right. And we want to just create some more space for us. Okay. And so I'll just get rid of our file locations on the left side, and we'll just focus our attention here. So it's giving us some information. It might be good to start reading this tutorial on how we need to get this thing done. So the first thing that we want to do in this notebook is to download the training and test data. It says in this notebook, we train a sentiment analysis model on a particular data set, and the data set is here. And so this is where we're pulling our data from. There's some sentiment analysis. We'll run this cell. Now, a few ways that we can do this, we can either click this thing, or we could choose to press Shift Enter, and we'll run it. And after we run it, we'll see a number pop up on the left side of the screen here. That's going to be perfect for us to understand that we did run it. Now, the output of this particular cell when we run it is going to simply create a directory for us. It's going to be called data, and we're going to be importing some libraries and downloading some test data And so I'll just shift enter, and we can see that it changed from asterisk to a 1. So that did get run. It moved us directly into the next cell. And we use SageMaker.s3.s3 uploader to upload our data set into S3. The return value inputs identifies the location. We use this later when we start training the job. And so we want to go ahead and run that next cell. And so I'll do just that. We can see the output. We use SageMaker to upload our data sets into an S3 location. All right. So there's a message here. Implement the training function. We need to provide a training script that can run on the SageMaker platform. The training scripts are essentially the same as one that you would write for local training, but you can also access useful properties about the training environment through various environment variables. In addition, hyperparameters are passed to the script as arguments. The script here is a simplified implementation of bag of tricks for efficient text classifications as implemented by Facebook's fast text for text classification. The model maps each word to a vector. Now I have a way of identifying each word, right? And averages vectors of all the words in a sentence to form a hidden representation of a sentence. So a code for a particular word is inputted into code for a collection of words as a sentence, which is inputted into a softmax classification layer. For more details, refer to the paper that's listed here in the hyperlink here. At the end of each epoch, our script also checks the validation accuracy and checkpoints the best models so far. So we'll go through, we'll train the model, we'll see which model, we'll train the models, we'll see which one gives us the best output. And so we'll carry on into the next portion here, where we do review what's going to happen with MXNet. It says the MXNet class allows us to run our training function on SageMaker infrastructure. We need to configure it with our training script. We need an IAM role, identity and access management role, with a good policy behind it, the number of training instances, as well as the instance type. In this case, we run our training job on one ml.m4.xlarge instance. So we just reviewed that information. We can even review the code here. Looks like all of what was talked about is present right here. We can see the sentiment.py Python script. We can also see the role that we'll get access to. We can see how many instances, it's just one of them, the type of instance here, the framework we're utilizing. So everything that we need. And so now we'll just make sure we choose Shift Enter or run that. So after we constructed our MXNet estimator, we can fit it using the data we uploaded to S3 previously. SageMaker makes sure our data is available in the local file system. So our training script can simply read the data from the disk. This step might take a while to execute. Next, we're going to start preparing the instances for training. There's going to be a downloaded training image, right, for the EC2 instance to run. And so once the training image download is completed, we'll start training the model. So we need to give it some time. So we'll let that information populate, and we'll have an opportunity to review what's happening here, right? So we've moved from the start the training job to preparing the instances for training. All right, folks, we're training this model at this point. As we can see, we started the training job like we talked about earlier. We prepared the instances for training. We downloaded the input data. We downloaded the training image, and then we started to train the model. As we review the output, we can see here at the bottom, there's two ways for us to know that the training has been completed. I can come down here and I can just read the output to say, all right, training job is completed, how long it took for us to train the job. And in addition to that, again, I can look at the cell and say, oh, you know what? I can see that number there and not an asterisk mark. So I know for sure that the training job has been completed. So good deal. So let's take a look at the next portion here. It says that if you read the logs, if you go through and you start taking a look at the logs, our model starts off at 74% accuracy, but gets better and ultimately achieving over 90% accuracy on the test set using the above hyperparameters that were set, right? And so after training, we use the MXNet object to build and deploy an MXNet predictor object. So this creates a SageMaker endpoint for us, and we can use this to perform inferences, right? We can start inferencing the model. The steps may take A little bit of time to complete, but we will definitely go forward and run that next command. And so we'll run this predictor right here to get that done. So again, shift enter. We'll give it some time to do its thing. And basically what's happening here, we get an opportunity to deploy an inference endpoint that can be used to integrate client applications to get real-time predictions from input data. The inference endpoint is deployed on that machine learning.m4.xlarge2 instance that we talked about. It's a waiting game sometimes, right? But that's okay. Do something like that, right? Get a bite to eat, get a cup of coffee while you're waiting for SageMaker to do its thing, run those different action items for you. But we hit this next portion here, and it's now time for us to review what's happened. Now, remember what's going on here. We're reviewing some customer information. So we did some emphasis on the data that's on the machine learning model, and it gave us some info. It says our predictor can perform inference on the JSON encoded string array of sample customer reviews. The predictor runs inference on our input data and returns the predicted sentiment, 1 for positive and 0 for negative. So the next thing that we need to do here is we need to run this next cell. So let's do that inference, right? We prepared for the inference. Now let's choose shift enter to run this cell here. And now we can get some information back. Now remember, 1 for positive, 0 for negative. So there was a positive review from a customer. We got a 1, and it looks like this movie is extremely good. That makes sense. We're able to get a 1 from that. Now, what about the next one? The plot was very boring. Well, that's not positive. So we should have gotten a 0, and we did. This film is so slick, superficial, and trend hoppy. That's probably not a positive message, right? So we got a 0 for that one. I just could not watch it till the end. Didn't make it to the end. That's not a positive response. But the movie was so enthralling, and that's a positive response. And we can see that the output has recognized that. So that's awesome. The input data for the inference endpoint is a string of array of customer reviews. The output is a Python list of 1s and 0s that predict the sentiment of the review as either positive. So that was pretty fun, folks. At this point, we can simply log out. And so what do we need to do? We choose file, and then we go to log out here. So cool. We're back here at the SageMaker domain. And now we get to view that inference that we just made against the model. So if I choose this hamburger button on the left side of the screen, and I scroll down until I can find inferences or inference, here it is. Now I can find endpoints. So I'll choose that. And here it is. Here's my endpoint, and I'll choose my endpoint. All right, and my endpoint has a name. I'm just going to copy the name of that. It's MXNet training and then some string of numbers. And so I did copy that name. So got the endpoint name, paste it somewhere where I can find it very easily. So we'll use that later. But now I want to go into a service that you may know about or may not. It's called S3. So I'll open up S3. And if I review the resources, I should have a SageMaker. Yes. SageMaker US East 1. And remember, we're storing our data here. And so we'll choose this S3 bucket. And I can see that we've been training the model, right? And here's the latest. So I'll choose that. And I want to download this, right? And simply put, I'll download this file, just download it to my local environment. Looks like every word has a number, right? And if we put these words into a sentence, we'll have an opportunity to have a code for that sentence, let's say. And this is the way that we keep track on those words. So when we were seeing those customer reviews that came out about the movie, we had an opportunity to identify, the model had an opportunity to identify those words, put them together, and then declare if it was positive or negative. Awesome. So we have an opportunity to associate, right, those words with those numbers. If I have a Lambda function already here that's built out, I'll choose that. All right, and if we scroll down far enough, we can see lambda function.py. What does this lambda function do? It looks like we're using SageMaker with Python 3. It also looks like we get to test the data of 3 movie reviews. We also get to make sure to edit the lambda function's environment variables for the endpoint that we created, right? The expected output should be 1 for a positive review and a 0 for a negative review. And that's what we saw the model. What we need to do is replace this endpoint name. We do have an endpoint name, right? And we need to actually put the right one here and not just this placeholder. So Now we'll go up to configuration. We can take a look at the environment variables under configuration. And we can see endpoint name is here. I'll choose to edit this because the proper value is not listed, right? And so we need to implement the proper value. And remember we had that endpoint name here. So I'll just copy this and I'll choose to replace that information and I'll save that. Now we have the proper endpoint name to be a part of our Lambda function. All right, so how about we test it? So we'll go to test here. We'll scroll down. Now we can see the test event. For the test, let's just call this mock test. All right, we'll save. We've saved that information. Now we'll test it. So we'll choose test. All right, it succeeded. What are the details? You know what happened here? So the test data that we were looking at only had 3 reviews, and we can see the output in regard to those 3 reviews. It looks like there's 1 positive message and 2 negative messages. And so that was the practice section of this lab. We put some practice in by building our own machine learning model. Now it's the DIY section here. DIY section is available for you to jump into. And you saw me go through the practice, right? And that's good, right? You had an opportunity to get a firsthand view on what's needed to be done to deploy some ML model with SageMaker. But the DIY section, I want to leave to you. I'm not going to go through it and show it to you on video because I want you to be able to come in here and capture these DIY goals. Use the same similar process that we went through, but you need to change some things about the Lambda function. So you create a new interface endpoint using an instance type. Here it is. And then you return to the Lambda function using the newly created endpoint. And so you'll create this yourself and you'll go through the DIY section yourself. I'll hit continue here so that you can see that you need to validate the results to make sure that what you did was proper. You went through that process and you had the proper settings. And so endpoint name will be here. The validation result will be here after you hit the validation button. But go get yourself ready to jump into the SimuLearn lab. Again, skill builder account first, and then search the name of this lab. You'll see it right here in the post. You can go for it. It's free. You don't have to pay for it. Get yourself some training on machine learning, right? Specifically around SageMaker Studio and or Jupyter notebooks. So Ariel here. Call me Cloud Coach Ariel. I'll see you all soon. Next time I want to drop some knowledge on you, okay? But do me a favor, go ahead and click the link on this post, comment in the comments there, and let's build a community of builders. See you folks later.